Thank you very much for the invitation of the ZEF. I'm really glad to be here. So I'm an adjunct professor of cultural study at the National University of Colombia. And my work focuses on communication processes and their impact on culture and armed conflict in Colombia. You hear me well, right? The sound is good. Okay. So the presentation I will do today is about the first result of an analysis of EMC propaganda on TikTok. EMC is a guerrilla group from Colombia. I will come back to this later. And first of all, I have to make a small disclaimer. When I talk about propaganda, I'm talking about the concept and not the common word acceptation. No. So when you talk about the concept of propaganda, you're talking about something that is ethically neutral. It's not good or bad by itself. There is good and bad propaganda. It depends on the goal of the propaganda and also the techniques that are used. And there's a very large literature from David Welch, Philip Taylor, Noam Chomsky, David Colon. A lot of scholars have written about propaganda. No. So I would start right away. So, what is EMC? I'm sure you probably never heard of EMC, but you probably heard about the FARC. So it stands for Estado Mayor Central, which means the Central General Staff, and it's opposed to Secretariado. Secretariado was the first rank commanders of the FARC. There were 7 of them, and there were the guys that negotiate the peace deal in Havana back in 2016. So the Estado Mayor Central, EMC, refers to the second rank commanders that did not sign the peace agreement back in June 2016 because well, for the main reason that well, I will read maybe the communique, the press release that went out in June 2016. So they said the peace agreement pretends to make a fake agrarian reform that does not compromise the large landowners' fields that have been usurped from the peasant and subsequently legalized through the administrative corruption of the different state entities. So it's a peasant guerrillas, a splinter group formed from the FARC back in 2016. But they call themselves the real FARC, no? They think of themselves as the historical prolongation of the history of the FARC, no? And it was created by those 2 guys, which are Ivan Mordisco and Calarca. And of course, they also they also seized an opportunity of seizing some economic beneficy from the coca production and also from the illegal mining. That are the 2 main activities which they finance themselves from. They are both from the first front of the FARC, which operates in the Amazon foothill, close to the Andean region. And as I said, they believe that the agrarian reform of the peace agreement is fake. In Colombia, 80% of the land are owned by just 1% of the landowners. No. So it's made out of 46 substructures, and they have no clear chain of command. It's more like a federation of guerrillas, no? And they regroup around 4,000 guerrilla members at the moment, and they are in permanent alliances, merging within the group, or even conflicts inside the group. Nowadays, Calarca and Ivan Mordisco, which the traduction would be Ivan the biter or something like that, are at war between each other. No, so it's a very fluid and chameleon-like type of guerrilla. That is Marxist-Leninist. It has a Marxist-Leninist discourse, and also is very peasant, no? So that's what the EMC is. And why is an EMC relevant when you talk about deforestation in Colombia? It's because each time the FARC strengthened their territorial grasp in Colombia, you observe a reduction in deforestation, in the deforestation rate, no? And it's also true for EMC. So this is the deforestation rate along the recent history of Colombia since 2001. And you can see that in 2014, when the final ceasefire from that would lead later to the demobilization of 8,000 fighters from the FARC starts, there is a peak in deforestation that goes up to 220,000 hectares just deforested in 1 year, which is the equivalent of Saarland. And afterwards, when splinter groups go back to war, then the deforestation starts to go down. And finally, when in 2023, there is a total peace strategy from the actual left-wing president, Gustavo Petro, which implied a new ceasefire for the EMC, no? And the EMC took advantage of this total peace strategy to reinforce their territorial grasp. And so you see that there is an historical drop in deforestation with only 80,000 hectares deforested in 2023, which was the best number in 23 years, no? On that map, you can see their territorial grasp in Colombia. And they are mainly in the southeast region. So this is the connection between the Andean region and the Amazon forest. And that explains also why they have this impact, because this is the region where most of the deforestation takes place. So this is a polemical fact, but it is well known now to researchers and to NGO. It has been more clear since the signing of the peace agreement that EMC is the de facto environmental authority in much of the forested areas in Colombia. Of course, you won't see it in the government reports or in the United Nations reports, but it became a central argument for EMC also in its propaganda strategy. They are now talking about their own environmental policy, which is something new because the FARC never did it before, no? And it's a fairly rustic but very effective propaganda, let's say, environmental policy. And they use some methods to propagate this policy that you can see here on these slides. So there are billboards that you can see all over the forested area. So for instance, this one, it's a picture that was taken 3 months ago in a reservation, like a national park. And in front of the sign to enter this reserve, you can see that they put their own billboard where they are saying that the environment it will only be achieved if the peasants' rights are protected, no? And also they use this type of documents, which is called the Manual de Convivencia, and it's sort of environmental code, no? And they print it on sheets of paper and distribute them to the peasants. And you have lots of rules there that are planned to protect the environment. So it's a kind of authoritarian force. It's not democratic, no? They operate by the use of force. And they use very simple levers, like the ban on extensive cattling, which is the main force of deforestation in the region. The ban on land speculation, which is very important for them. You cannot stay in those regions unless you are working your own land. You cannot contract someone to work on your land, otherwise you'll be expelled. They manage forestry licenses, so for the exploitation of food, but also for the exploitation of all kind of natural resources in the forest. And they promote subsistence farming, but also coca farming. And so the coca leaves is not one of the main factors of deforestation in Colombia, though most of the time you see the contrary in UN reports, because it's kind of crop that allows some revenue and to the peasant now to go further east or further south to deforest more. No, so that's about their environmental policy. And now, why did I came to TikTok? Back in March 2024, I was contacted by a journalist of France 24, which is the equivalent of Deutsche Welle. And he wanted to make a report on the way EMC is recruiting children on TikTok. I quote. No, that's what is subject. No, and he asked me for a reaction, and I told him that I know nothing about the propaganda of EMC. I was working on propaganda of the former FARC. So he sent me 143 accounts from that are related to the guerrilla. No, that claim to be related to the EMC. And so I make a quick answer to his asking, and then this article went really viral on all medias. No, and you could see that it striked the imaginary of a lot of people. No, because it was in BBC, and you could read, for instance, that the cool children were being lured by rebels on TikTok. I could hear my name also on a TV forecast in an international channel in the United States. It was really a countless reactions and publication on media and social media that used to jump to conclusion very easily. Like the Chinese government made an alliance with TikTok to help Marxist-Leninists in the Amazon and to lure children into going into the guerrilla. So it was like a red alert kind of controversy, and I thought that would be interesting to go further into that that matter, no? To make a more profound analysis to see if really there was this kind of alliance. And on April 2024, the Ministry of Defense made a public declaration when he said illegal armed groups have been diversifying their strategy to recruit and utilize children and adolescents using social networks like TikTok videos. No, so it became really a public matter by this time of the year. This year, 2024, yeah. So what I did is I started to work on this project in May because I was applying also to the writing fellowship, so I knew I would have time to work on this. And I conducted a field work in July in Caqueta, which is one of the departments where EMC is most present, in an indigenous community in Yaco, and in a place where former fighters from the FARC regroup also, because I thought that maybe there would be people that would understand those type of communication. And it's called Agua Bonita. It's a place where they regroup in the region. So there are people that are not in the EMC but are in contact with them. No, and on the methodological planning, I had a lot of challenges. The first thing is that a lot of these contexts are restricted. You cannot access to them because, of course, they don't want to be public. So it's hidden. And to get into those accounts, you have to be recognized as someone of the community, which is not my case. So there's a part of the conversation that is hidden online. Those contents are also ephemeral. It means that they are quickly deleted by platform moderation policies. As you could see after this polemic, of course, TikTok, that is trying to avoid a ban by the US states and the European Union, reacted really quickly and pulled down those accounts. Now, most of them are not accessible. And on the field work, it's almost impossible to touch the subject during interviews, no, because it's very, of course, it's very dangerous for the people you are talking to, no. So it's a conflict zone. There are ethical dilemmas that you have to take into account, and so it takes more time than I previously thought. So what I adapted to those challenges. First, I implement a kind of digital and remote ethnography, which basically means that I made some friends on the field, and I'm still talking to them, and I'm trying uh, to include them into the investigation, into the research. So they trust me, and then they can give me some information, some insight that they have. Um, so that means also including two type of people are very important here. No, first, the school teachers, because they are in contact with the teenager all the time, and so they know really what the kind of use they are making of TikTok and of social media in general. The teenagers, but that's the kind of population I won't access directly because of ethical problems, and also former fighters, because they are always into this crossfire between the armed groups, and there are 400 of them have been killed since the signing of the peace agreement, because they are sometimes they are considered as traitor to the cause. No. So what I've heard, something interesting, is that there's a school network on one of these schools that is built on WhatsApp, because only in 2023, in one of the schools that is in Urayaco, 15 students have entered the armed groups. Not only the guerrillas, also paramilitary groups and the Sinaloa cartel. No, so that would be very interesting to know what is inside this WhatsApp group, which is built uh, to exchange information on how TikTok and all other social network, really, because it's not only on TikTok, it's also on Telegram, it's also on Facebook, are being used to recruit children inside the school. So we would like to know what is being said in these groups, but I won't have direct access, so I have to include some former fighters and some school teachers into the research, and maybe in the framework of a postdoctoral research, that would be possible, no, with some kind of also revenue for them, or some kind of beneficiary for them also. So that requires a lot of passions, more than I thought would be necessary. And also what I can do is work on the visible part of the iceberg, which means composing an archives of social media public posts over the time. Every time I see something, I download it, and then I'm trying to compose an archive that is relevant to these studies. No. So now I'll go to the first results, which are very few, as you will see. So out of 143 EMC icons identified in March 2024, some quantitative information first. Uh, there were 51 of them, 51% of them were owned by men and 38% by women. 11% didn't tell. That doesn't say as much. It's about the same composition probably than the EMC is. No, they have like 40% of women in those guerrillas. It always has been the case. So it only reflects that there is no gender difference between the presence of the guerrilla fighters in those social networks. No, on the geographical aspects, it also reflects where the war was more raging during 2023. I compare those results to the battle that took place in 2023, and it's the same order. 70% of them were taking place into Cauca, which is the main coca production zone. So that's interesting, because it means that where the war is more raging is where they need more propaganda. No, that's where they will have more actions. So then I've tried to organize the first results into what I call narrative pillars, which are not a narrative at all, but well, as a whole, but a part of not narrative as such, but part of a narrative. No, so I identified at least 4 of them that I will present now. So the first one is showing up the bling bling. No, I called it, and it's they are showing like expensive cars, jewelry, liquors, weapons, and large amount of monies. Almost all of these publications are by men, are published by men, and it's kind of a narco aesthetic that shows opulence and eccentricities that is known in Colombia as traqueto. This is something new for the FARC because before that, the historical FARC, they never used traqueto culture inside their post. No, they always uh, uh, projected this Marxist-Leninist imaginary. So it's still here, the Marxist-Leninist imaginary, but it's mixed with those kind of publication. It's very short video, so I think I can put this one for instance. So So this is coca production, no? This is coca trees, and it says, I don't mind telling from where I come from, and if they joke about me, I tell them I'm from the guerrilla. And also, you can tell that it's a EMC account because the music is called Jacobo Arenas, and it's a traditional song from the FARC, but it's remixed with a techno DJ. So it was the tune that was fashionable at the time I downloaded those posts. No. Also, you have a lot of picture of men driving cars with the watch, hand on the wheel, and the weapon at the side. No, it's you have a lot of publication of this kind, but with music from the FARC that makes this hybridation with the tradition, and that so you know it's a EMC publication. No, and also you have a lot of parties. Me mortifica porque So, creas que in that case, aquí. Well, I won't put it all, but it's you can see that the cup is from the front of the FARC, so you know it's a EMC publication, and the music is popular music, also known as Guarencha, I think, in from the Paisa, and it's a very popular type of music, of course, as its name indicates, but it's playing cantina, so it's music to party, no? And so you have this kind of publication that is really about the narco culture. Okay. So the second narrative pillar I've spotted is a more traditional one, and I called it the ethos of power. So this one was it, goes back to the history of the FARC. It was always like that. It's a kind of discourse that says we are invincible. No, we have been around for decades, and we will still be around for decades. And so here you have a few examples. So sometimes you see guerrillas with their guns watching the territory, or you see those kind of picture when you see weapons. And also, you have those kind of new videos that adapt to the kind of language you see in TikTok. So in that song, which is also popular music, it says they are talking about how they are going to kill me someday. I'm not afraid of snakes. I know how to lose and win. And in the comments, people are saying you shouldn't show your face because you will be spotted by the army and they will kill you. And they just answer with a laughing emoji, no, to mean that they really feel that they are safe, no. So this girl on the right video, and she published a lot of video of that kind with other young women where they project this image of we are invincible, you can't catch me, no. So um, the third, I still have some times, yeah. So the third narrative pillar I spotted was that they present themselves as a protection from outside threats in the Amazon region, no. So it comes more often from the lyrics of the songs, that construct narrative where the guerrilla are presented as protectors and defender against those external threats. So for instance, this is the same song, but if you hear at the lyrics, so it says that the army was killing children in the south of the country, but then came the Columna Mobile Jacobo Arenas, which is like a elite group from the FARC, and saved those children, no? And also in that other songs, uh, so he's saying that he went to the guerrillas because his family was displaced from his land by latifundistas, by large landowners. No? A bit longer, so I won't put it to the end. But the idea is that they are protecting also the peasant from the landowners. No. And his songs are great to analyze this narrative, I think, because they put together all this narrative pillar and to build this main narrative, no, that is sometimes made of things that are really contradictory. So the fourth narrative pillar I wanted to show is that they and this also goes back to the history of the FARC. They project the image of guerrilla lifestyle, which is outdoor, which is rural, collective, and transhumant, and an exciting way of life. No, so that goes back also to the history of the FARC. Before it was in songs, or it was in printed propaganda, or by the radio they used, which was called Voz de la Resistencia. And for instance, here you have a girl that is singing with the sunset or with the sunrise, and saying what a great day she would have. Or here you have also cuando las balas pasan bien cerquita, aumenta los nervios, la adrenalina, al saber que una puede acabar. So this says, I like to listen to the sound of gunshots. When the bullets pass close by, it increases my nerves and adrenaline to know that one of them could end with my life. So this kind of adrenaline also, this is part of the way of life. Or also you have this kind of videos. Is a member of the Dissident, which she's a kind of influencer really from the Guerrilla. She has really funny videos. She published this kind of videos like saying, come to me with my journey, I have a great life. And she's also posting videos of her dancing all the time. And dancing is very important. Of course, this is TikTok. No, it was created by ByteDance, which was a company originally created to show dancing videos, and this always works. No, and it's Colombia. So when you have TikTok plus Colombia, you will see people dancing, of course. And so you have a lot of this kind of video, for instance, that combines guerrilla song with those kind of choreography. With the same song, which was really the famous tune at the time, La Jacobo Arenas. And it's always fascinating to see people dancing, no? So you give a camera to guerrilla fighters, and they will know what to do with that. So that's what I think the EMC has discovered. They will dance. And you couldn't see that in the FARC. So now some conclusion. I'll try because, as you see, it's still a very. I'm still very early in that process. But the first one is that those posts are embedded into diverse and sometimes contradictory narrative pillars that can combine, for instance, traqueto culture, like narco culture, with Marxist-Leninist discourses. So that's really new, no? Also, those discourses articulate elements of local culture with the symbolic and historical heritage of the FARC. So, for instance, Yeah. For instance, from local culture, you have the popular music, which is played in every cantina. You also have the coca production, which is really part of the identity of Caquetá and also Cauca. You have the dances, which are really, some of them are really traditional with the cumbia style. And from the part of the discourse from the FARC, you have the corrido fariano, which are the music we listen that are really traditional and that talk about those commanders back in the days, no? Like Jacobo Arenas died in 1990 and he founded the Guerrilla in 1964. So, but he is the main subject of a very popular theme that are playing right now, the EMC. You have the founder imaginary, of course, and you have the Marxist-Leninism. A lot of discourses also show that they are still very attached to this kind of discourses. It's also a form of communication that reflects a process of hybridization between tried and new channel of communication. So for the tried channel, you have the billboards, the mass work, which is direct relation with the population, Manual de Convivencia that I showed, the paintings everywhere, murals, graffitis, painting on the trunks of the tree, etc. But also new channels like TikTok, but not only TikTok. Actually, TikTok right now is not very big for the EMC. They've switched after these controversies. They've switched to Facebook, to Telegram, and to WhatsApp. And Telegram and WhatsApp is really more difficult to analyze it because it's part of it is hidden. And it's a propaganda strategy that reflects EMC internal organization. No, there's a lack of well-defined chain command inside of the EMC, as I said at the beginning. And this is also the kind of communication that you see on TikTok. They basically, it's fighters with a phone that are making their own dances, their own type of propaganda, maybe with some kind of instruction from their middle rank commanders. But apparently, it's not coming from the top commanders because the communication is really diverse. No. Also, the communication is decentralized with that type of communication. So as the EMC is decentralized, it's more the federation of guerrillas. Each guerrilla seems to be the promoter of his own discourse, no? And there's no evidence at all that these publications are part of a wider strategy organized by China EMC Alliance, because Sebastian Martinez, Sebastian Martinez is one of the main representative of the EMC that is currently negotiating the peace with Gustavo Petro. And he said, interviewed by the BBC, that these are particular cases that sometimes gets out of our hands. They can bring security risk, and we are trying to control it. So the official discourse of EMC is that this type of communication are not what are not wanted, are not part of a wider communication strategy. And actually, TikTok really made a big work to moderate those accounts, and most of them have disappeared. Of course, they come back with new kinds of language, of discourses. There is the ninja emoji that now represent accounts that are part of the EMC, but they try to hide their contents, not using the keywords that are being detected by TikTok moderation. And on the environmental part, but this is not new. This was also inside the propaganda of the former FARC. There is a kind of alternative ontology of nature and environment from the FARC. Nature is not something external to the state, let's say, or their conception of the state, but it's more a space where EMC proto-state, let's say, can prosper, no? And this is basically what I have to tell at that point, but I'll be glad to answer any question or comment, or if you have sugerencias, suggestions also, they are very welcome. Thank you for listening.